Hello, Splunkers. My name is Ami, and I am your Global Content Marketing Manager. I have the pleasure of representing your Women Plus ERG to introduce this inaugural Seat at the Table talk, where we connect with some of the people behind the data and dive into the topics as chosen by you, Splunkers, in our quarterly event survey. Your Women Plus ERG understands how challenging it can feel that we have a proverbial seat at the table. In this first of our series, we dive into themes around taking space and making space here at Splunk. And we're so excited to have this discussion as I'm joined by some of our leaders who have deep insight into this topic. So without further ado, let me please introduce three Splunkers who rightfully need no introduction. Thank you, Nikki, Tony, and Stu for joining me on this first episode of our Women Plus Engagement Table Talk. Tony, I'd love to hear you share a little bit more of some of your data points and what brought you to where you are here at Splunk.
Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here with all of you remotely. So look, I've been at Splunk for almost 5 years now. I'm currently the Senior Vice President of Global Services, and I started 5 years ago as the VP for Professional Services, Customer Success, and Services Sales. But before coming to Splunk, I worked at other companies like Symantec, Veritas, HP, Oracle in a variety of leadership roles in support, business critical, in sales, and then early in my career, also other roles like I was a developer, I was an SE, I was in technical sales. I graduated from RPI, which is a very deep engineering school in New York. Lots of men there, 15-to-1 ratio when I went to school there. And I started my career as an F-117A stealth fighter avionics engineer. And that was a bunch of all men and myself. So it might give you a sense as to why I'm really passionate about this. Just some personal data points, which are probably a lot more interesting. I'm Italian Japanese. I'm an avid athlete, so I love to kickbox, play handball, anything competitive. I also play music. I have a Harley. It's purple, like my hair. I have 2 kids. One's in college. The other one just graduated, and I live in Florida. And I'm very passionate about volunteering for sea turtle rescue and seabird preservation.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Tony. We really value and appreciate you. And next, I'd love to highlight Nikki, who many of you watching will already know her from her compelling Million Data Points video. Nikki, you've got such an inspirational story about your career growth at Splunk. Can you share a little bit about your Splunk journey?
Yeah, thank you, Ami. I appreciate that, and welcome and hello, everyone. It's great to see everyone virtually and speak. My journey at Splunk has been fantastic. I've been here since 2016. I joined in as an intern to a $35 stock and a 2,000 person company in a sales engineering organization that was probably 1/5 of what it is today. I started my journey as an intern in our Plano office, went on to taking leadership roles and became an SE manager out of the West Coast. I got to manage teams across observability, run initiatives and programs and projects like the intern program. And then I moved to San Antonio, where I'm working remotely right now, and I lead the sales team for observability for the eastern half of the enterprise team. So I've been able to have a really fun ride here at Splunk with not doing a job more than the same job more than 2 years. So I've been very lucky with that.
Oh, thanks so much, Nikki. Every time I hear your story, I'm so reminded of our Chief People Officer, Kristen Robinson. She always tells us about the opportunities for cross-departmental career advancement, and you are such an inspirational example for all of us. Now, rounding out this panel, I do want to introduce Stu. I personally asked Stu to actually be on this panel because throughout my own career journey, Stu consistently has shown real and tangible examples of how he not only makes space for those around him, but also how his actions create a comfort level for the women on his team to feel like they can bring their authentic selves to work. I've got dozens of Stu's stories to share. But before I do, I would love to hear you share a little bit about some of your Million Data Points and how you've grown your own career here at Splunk.
Sure, Ami. Thank you very much for having me. And it's a pleasure to join, I guess, this virtual stage with the lovely young women on this panel. So I started at Splunk roughly 3 fiscal years ago. I started in 2019. And I've been here for 3 full fiscal years now. I started as a regional sales director in our commercial business, looking after the Canadian commercial business. And then each year I've taken on, I guess, more and more responsibility, and Splunk has been fantastic in supporting that growth that I want to have and want to see in my own career. So today I am the area vice president for our partner-led and digital native sales segments in the commercial space. And similar to Nikki and Tony, the journey has been absolutely fantastic. And I couldn't say enough about the opportunities that we have here at Splunk, and how it doesn't matter, your gender, your age, your cultural background, or where you live in the world. Those opportunities are always afforded to us if we choose to go and embrace those opportunities. As far as before Splunk, I spent 12 years at one company, that was Cisco Systems. I always have to say Cisco Systems because some people that are not in tech, like my wife, will think of Cisco as the food company. So I usually say Cisco Systems now from just being told many times, oh, I like that food company. I've heard of them. But I spent 12 years at Cisco in various individual contributor roles, then moved into leadership. And I was in various leadership roles over at Cisco as well before joining Splunk. As far as personal, I am married. I have 2 kids. My wife and I have a 10-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter who thinks she's 16. So just living through that is a journey in itself with my young daughter. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, well, thanks for being here, Stu. We appreciate everybody joining, both as participants and the people who are watching this as well. I feel like when we work together to move that needle, we're really able to not just change our environment at Splunk, but also our environments around us globally in our communities too. So diving into it, let's open this forum up and ask, what is it about taking space and making space? And what does this mean to you? And how do you think Splunk supports you with this?
I just to chime in first, when you shared the topic with us initially, I was a little confused. And I think Tony and I asked a question about what exactly do, our members want to hear when they say taking space and making space. And it was interesting because we had this discussion last week. I've been at Splunk for 6 years. I've worked in multiple offices, met many people, but last week I went to a QBR. And as many people know, our offices have been closed for 2 years. So it was a very odd experience to, go back to that conference room setting at 8 a.m. in the morning. And I walked into the meeting room, and for the first time in a very long time, I noticed my entire body clench. And I couldn't understand why. And I looked across the room, and everyone looked the same, to be quite honest. And everything that they were the same in was everything I wasn't. And for a minute there, I noticed myself almost going into a fight or flight freeze kind of mode, where I was just psyching myself out and kind of hyper focusing on how I was so different than everyone else. And then my mind was going 100 miles per hour to also let me know how I was, less or more deficient because of these reasons why I'm different from everyone. And I had to have a pep talk with myself in that moment and really understand and become more aware of what was happening and what my brain was trying to do, and kind of self-correct. But I recognized in that time that because I haven't been around so many people, and because many of us have been at home and been working, via Zoom, et cetera, we've been in scenarios where we are safe and where we enjoy and where we thrive. And you can't always control that when you're out in working environments or, living your life externally. You will be in scenarios where you are different, and adjusting to that was a little bit of a learning curve for me, even, 3-4 days before I'm giving, part of this panel, having this talk.
Nikki, it's interesting because being different is a great thing, right? So I think all of us have had the experience where you're in an environment where you're different from everybody else. I think that's where the value really happens. We know that when you've got a lot of different experiences and a lot of different backgrounds, the ability for a team or a group to excel is accelerated. So that's a great thing. So then it's about like, how do you kind of
Yep.
center yourself so that you're prepared for that? I mean, one of the things that I try to do is, one, I don't try to be something or someone that I'm not. I don't try to fit in necessarily. I want to make a point that I can contribute, that they understand who I am. And we talk about this, like, make space, taking a seat at the table, figuratively. I think of that physically also, especially as we all kind of start to get back to the office. So, you know, when you're in an office situation and you go into a room, like, you want to have a presence. And so lots of times, like, there's seats on the periphery of the room and there's seats at the table. Like, I physically want you to take a seat at the table, like, be there, make your presence known. Like, there've been times when I've like forced myself to like, move over, I'm sitting at the table, like, do that. Right. And then in Zoom, when you have all of those squares, you're just a square. And if you're not on video, you're just a square of the picture like everybody else. And I think it's really important, if you want to contribute and be the most valuable that you can be, that you are participating and that you're not just a box kind of behind this remote screen that we have. The other thing as leaders that I think are really important is that you make space for other people, other women, for all diversity. Really, I take notice, and I want to be very intentional about giving everyone, regardless of who they are, the opportunity. I make asks, I call out potentially, and I want them to make sure that they know that they should be included in the conversation. And I'm very intentional about it. So kind of that's how I think about it. The fact that you felt different, I think, is great.
And, you know, that was the exact conversation I had to have with my head when I like noticed my gut reaction was to freeze immediately. It was like, wait, why are you scared? Why aren't you talking? Not only is that a disservice to everybody else in this room, it's a disservice to yourself. It is so unfair to yourself. And so I went, you know, to the bathroom, gave myself my best Rihanna pep talk, and came out.
But you do make a great point, Tony, about that intentionality. And this is one of the first of the many Stu stories that I have. But when I first started at Splunk, it was my first day. And Stu came over. He was the first person to come over. I was the only member of the people team in our Vancouver, Canada office. Stu was the first person to come over, shake my hand and said, hey, welcome to the team. He invited me to all of the all hands. He embedded me in his commercial sales team. He had me rework the discovery calls and sit in on client meetings just so I could further my education. So these are the tangible actions that we talk about coming from our leaders to help grow that comfort level for women in the workforce. So what else do you, Stuart, or what else have you done, or what has been your mindset towards creating action and not just words?
I would say it goes back to, and I'm sure many of you folks have read, you know, the Harvard Business Reviews or the Gallup studies or the consulting firm studies that show, like, factually show that having more diversity on teams will result in a better outcome, not only from a performance perspective, but from the other intangible things that sometimes you can't measure by, you know, you sold X% more or whatever it is. That diversity of thought process, right, is so critical right now as organizations like Splunk and other companies out there try to grow themselves in a world where there is so much chaos and so much ambiguity and things like that. If we can have those diverse viewpoints, mindsets, it will help us be better as an organization. It will help us be better as a team. So it was interesting when you mentioned that, Ami, in our initial conversation. I was like, well, I was just trying to do what I think would be the best outcome for the team in the Vancouver office, or for Splunk from a, you know, having another person's insight into this area, because I don't have all the answers. I know all the other people don't have all the answers. So the more people that we get together to figure it out and have that diverse background is going to make us better as leaders, one, and learn from those folks. And second, I think I'm a big believer in trying to build high functional, high performing teams. And I believe you cannot at any point in time build a highly functional and high performing team without the diversity that we require from our environment, right? So may that be gender, age, cultural background, geography of location. Those are all great diverse items or types of people that we want to make sure are a part of these teams. So it's interesting. And I would challenge some of the male folks out there listening, and I hope we have a lot more out there listening on this call, is to think of it in that manner, in that we need more diversity of folks like yourselves and me, and Tony, yourself, and Nikki, and others on this conversation today, to be better ourselves, right? Because we don't have all the answers, and we don't have all the inputs and outputs that we need to be successful as leaders, and also making sure that those folks have a seat at the table, and sometimes checking our own biases that we may have learned over time or from childhood or whatever it is. But if you think about it consciously, you automatically over time will subconsciously start to, ensure that you're adding and more diversity to the table, if that makes sense.
The other thing I would add to that is that it's not just the leader's responsibility. It's really everyone. Everyone on this call is empowered to make a difference, right? What you say matters.
Absolutely.
What you do matters. How you act matters. And so everyone should feel like they've got empowerment to make it better and to make diversity real and to create that awareness.
Yeah. And just to chime in on the allies aspect, at the end of the day, I think all of us, many of us, right? Like, we stand on the shoulders of our mentors and those that have taught us, what we know and have helped pave the way to where we are today. But if I think about, some of the great opportunities I've gotten here at Splunk, they have been through the through the insight and the support of wonderful mentors and sponsors along the way. And I was very honest and frank to them. And many of them were male allies, in my case, in the sales engineering organization or the sales organization, and saying that, get me in the rooms that I'm not invited to. Invite me to the dinners that I wouldn't be invited to, that you're out there with your friends. Give me the opportunity to build a relationship with these people in a more comfortable, less formal setting, that I wouldn't otherwise have the chance to do so. That's how you can help me. That's where I need help. That's how you can be a great ally. And that's been foundational and very formative for me.
One question I would have for you, Nikki, is that something you proactively did?
I did.
Meaning you reached out to some folks, or you said, hey, I think this person can be an ally. Let me go have that conversation with them. Because I think that's critical. We're all so busy, right? And we're always running 100 miles an hour, doing all different things. But, take the time to maybe look who could be an ally or who could be a supporter, and reach out to them, right? I always tell people in the Vancouver office, my calendar's up to date usually. So book as much time as you want in the calendar. I'm happy to chat and provide some input and feedback. Even if that person is not in your organization or segment or whatever you want to call it, reach out to them, right? Have a coffee with somebody. And the best thing is, everyone's tired of not having human connection over the last two years, because of COVID. So I would welcome, in-person coffee meeting anytime in the Vancouver office. So great job, Nikki, by the way, of you taking that initiative to reach out and being able to, ask for that support, right?
Yeah. I think that's something that, those of us that are privileged to be in the industry and have whatever experiences that we have, the best things I think sometimes that we can offer our mentees is our network. Things that would take them years or, a variety of situations to get them access to those people. And that's something I ask of my mentors all the time is, please, would you introduce me to somebody in your network who you think would be beneficial for me to know, or would be, a good conversation.
And Nikki, to your point, I think having a mentor is important, but being a mentor is equally important, right? So again, I go back to everyone on the call matters, and everybody else can serve another person. So I think that mentorship piece is really important.
Yeah, and I know Splunk is doing a great job right now of looking for mentors and mentees. I don't know, me, if you're a part of these programs or not, but I think Splunk's doing the right things or taking the right steps to get mentors and mentees together. I just went through a mentor-mentee formal arrangement last quarter with someone that I had, part of the organization that I probably wouldn't normally talk to in my day-to-day role. And it was a fantastic experience for me. I got to learn something else about the organization in an area I didn't know a lot about. And this person was able to kind of glean from myself what sales is like and all the things that we do on this side, because that was of interest to them. So I know we're taking the right steps to do or have a formal kind of mentor-mentee program within Splunk. So I hope folks are taking advantage of that program, the folks that are listening. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're perfect. And that was exactly that flow that I was going to go in with our next topic here, is that we know Splunk's mission is to remove the barriers between data and action so that everyone can thrive in the data age. So when we talk about making space for underrepresented groups, and not just women, but women of color and women with different physical abilities and women of LGBTQ plus backgrounds, what is it do you feel that we're doing well to fulfill our mission?
I would say first and foremost, I think we have to acknowledge that that's important and that we need that diversity at the table. And I think events like this help us do that. I think the second piece to it is to ensure that we have as many folks that are allies to help support efforts within Splunk. What I was really excited to see, and I'm not sure if it's the first time we've formalized this, but I believe we now have a chief diversity officer here at Splunk, which is great to see. It's fantastic. And I know this person will be responsible for a number of the things under the table of diversity. But I think those things are a great start. But it's likely not enough. I think the more advocates you have and more allies, like Nikki mentioned, that you have, it's going to help us get to a state where it's no longer a conscious thing, it's a subconscious thing that everybody has a seat at the table.
Yeah, I think from my opinion and just in pure transparency, I think the thing that Splunk is doing right is the Splunkers. The ERGs, I ran an ERG for women plus in the Plano office. I started it with Chantel Palomo, who also started the Latinx ERG. I've been part of the San Francisco ERG, and the work that ERG members put in, it is a full-time job and a half. So I understand that level of grit and hard work, and the power of our ERGs is phenomenal. It is one of the best networks within Splunk. Anytime we haven't had an intern put their name into the ERG chats, they were constantly just invited into a community that just accepted them, helped them from day one, just as somebody, as new as an intern that I've seen, that I've hired. So for me, the thing that Splunk has done right is the ERGs, the Splunkers that they have hired, and the Splunkers who run these ERGs are a testament to our Splunk culture.
Nikki, I see that too. And even when it's been difficult, right? We're not been together. So you got to do everything remote and still trying to keep that kind of, team together. There's just been a ton of time put in and a lot of effort to make sure that our ERGs continue. And it's really like a shining light to keep our inclusive mindset all together. So I think, we're encouraging learning. We're encouraging to be thinking about these things, keeping an open mind. I think Splunk does that really well. And it's just part of the culture that we all love. And that's why we're here.
Yep.
So that's a great point. Why are we all here? Let's dive into that in this last question, as we're almost top of the hour. But in a few sentences, why is now a good time to grow your career at Splunk?
I have a lot to say about that. I'm going to keep it short. But what I would tell you is, from a company perspective, clearly accelerated growth, that's awesome. Huge market opportunity, exciting. Some great leadership. We're moving to cloud. There's more data in the world than ever, right? So we're very meaningful now. And we're going through a lot of change, even though some people might view that as a negative. It's hard, but it's exciting, and it really drives innovation. Our customers love our products. They're maniacal. They wear fezzes and capes and like all kinds of stuff like that. We all wear our Splunk logo t-shirts. This is truly, I think, a special place. The culture is like no other that I've ever seen. It's fun, innovative. We trust each other. Diversity matters, like we're talking about today. Inclusiveness matters, like we're talking about today. Compassion matters. I think Splunk is setting the example. We have won awards for being, a great place to work, and for Human Rights Campaign Foundations, that corporate equity award that we just got. So I think, Splunk is truly a special place. The people make it that special, and it's really unique. So I don't know, Nikki or Stu, what you think?
Yeah, I think for me, it's why not? We work at such a great company that has so much that needs to get done because it's still young and it's still growing. And people build their careers in places where things need to get done, not where things have already been made and created. And so for me as a builder, the opportunity is endless. And that's what I think every Splunker, is motivated, is to go out there and build. There's so many things that need fixing. So let's get in there and fix it and build it and be part of this, great project that we're having up. And secondly, I think personally for me, I think there's also like a responsibility aspect. I think as being a minority in tech, you have the responsibility, at least I feel like I have the responsibility of being a change agent and also opening the doors, because a variety of people have opened doors for me. So maybe that's karma, maybe that's, just a way that I see respect and responsibility for my Eastern heritage. But that's where another reason why I see Splunk as a great place, because there's so much impact you can have in this organization.
And Nikki, I just got to tell you, your journey is the perfect example of the opportunities that are here. And, you've proven just how you can excel throughout your career here in a short period of time. It's been amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit to what Nikki and Tony said, and they summed it up very well, by the way. I would say one word: culture. The culture here. I had a bit of a culture shock when I came from my previous organization to Splunk, in a good way, right? And I still have that same culture shock or feeling, and the giddiness around Splunk's fantastic culture in the organization. Look, we've got a great product. Customers love us, like Tony was mentioning. There's so much great growth that's going on, and there are things that come from that Nikki mentioned. There's some things need to be fixed, right? And they will get fixed. But in general, I would say it's the culture that keeps me here. We all know people hitch people up on LinkedIn all the time to go somewhere else, but what keeps me here is the fantastic culture. And I know that we'll keep growing this culture in a positive manner as Splunk keeps growing as an organization.
Oh, this is such an incredible conversation. I'm a little bit disappointed. We're already top of the hour. Tony, Nikki, Stu, thank you again, not just for taking the time to participate, but also for sharing your insights, your advice, and your career journeys here at Splunk. This is one of the million data points as to why I love working at Splunk so much. Splunkers are always open to share, collaborate, and really lift each other up. For anyone who may have missed the beginning of this conversation, or perhaps isn't even aware, this came from our employee resource group. So Lexi Nutt Brown leads our Women Plus Engagement ERG, and we wanted to come together as a global community to strengthen our Splunk culture of allyship. And with our ERG platforms, we have the opportunity to create content that Splunkers want to discuss and make these conversations even more available. So for everyone watching this, we encourage you to please join our Women Plus Engagement workstream, along with all of the other employee resource groups. I look forward to diving deeper into this topic with my colleagues, my leaders, and even my network of friends outside of Splunk, because as we mentioned, the more we embrace these global conversations and the more we work together to move that proverbial needle, the more we can remove the barriers and truly help everyone thrive in the data age. My name is Ami, and this has been a conversation with Tony, Nikki, and Stu, and we are Splunk. Thank you.